Welcome. Let's begin with int class method. First one is bit length. It returns the number of bits used for representing given integer object internally. So suppose we have variable a having integer value 30 and we want to know how many bits are used to represent it internally. We will write a dot bit length. If we execute it, it will give you the value. And if you want to tally with the binary representation of same value, we can write it inside bin method, which converts the given integer into the binary representation. So if we execute it, we can know that these are the binary representation bits used to represent given integer. As we have explained earlier, Python does not caps the maximum number of integer which can be stored inside variable. So as the number grows larger in integer, its bit length varies. So in Python, integers length can be even greater than 64 bits. So we will check the given number bit length. So suppose we are storing a large integer object into the variable b and we will check its bit length. So if we execute it, it gives us 54 is a number of bits that is used to represent the given integer object. And if we check the binary representation of it, we can see that these are the 54 bits. Next method is toBytes, which converts the given integer object into the bytes object. Okay, it takes two mandatory argument. First one is a length which is used to represent length of byte which is used to represent the given integer object, and byte order which is either big or little indent. And optional argument is a signed, which is by default false, which represent that the given number is not represented as a 2's complement method. Okay, and if negative number is used, it will give you an overflow error. So let's check a equal to 25 and we will convert it into the bytes. So if we execute it, we can see big indent representation of bytes for the given integer. Same can be used for little indent. So as we can see here, both big and little indent representation of bytes. Next method is from bytes, which converts the given byte object into the integer object. It requires two mandatory arguments. First one is a byte object and second one is byte order, which is used for converting integer value. Okay, so if we will take the same value which we have obtained earlier using big indent and let's convert it back to the integer value. So as we can see, it converts the byte object into integer object. Next is a float class method. First one is integer. It checks that whether the given float object can be represented as an integer exactly or not. If, for example, f1 variable is holding 9.0, so 9.0 can be represented as exactly into integer as a 9. So integer will return true for it. And 3.27 cannot be exactly represented as integer, so it will return false. Next method is hex, which converts the given floating number float number to the string, which is hexadecimal equivalent of float number. So we will write f1 dot hex, which will convert it into the equivalent hexadecimal representation in string. Next method is from hex, which converts the given hexadecimal representation in string into the float object. Okay, we forgot to write the method. So float dot from hex and given variable name. So if we execute it, we will get the floating point object from hexadecimal representation. Next is as integer ratio. So given floating point number will be returned as an integer ratio. So if we execute it, as we can see, 15 by 2 is equal to floating point 7.5. Next topic is type conversion. As we have seen basic data type in Python, integer, float, string and boolean, they can be converted from and to using these conversion methods. So first one is integer, which converts the given value into the integer object. So float can be float value, boolean value, and string can be converted into the integer object. Okay, so float will be rounded off. For boolean, false equal to 0, and any value which is an integer other than 0 is considered as a true. But if we convert true into integer, it will result in 1. And for any given string can be converted into the integer as it is, but it should only contain the numeric value. So let's execute it. As we can see, float is rounded off to 122, true is converted into 1, and string containing only numeric value are represented as it is in integer. With int method, we can also convert binary, octal and hexadecimal representation of numbers in string to the integer object. For that, we need to provide two mandatory arguments. First one is string representing object into the integer equivalent representing into the binary, octal or hexadecimal, and second argument is a base. So by default, if we converting string into the integer, its base is 10, but for binary it will 2, for octal 8, and hexadecimal it is 16. So let's execute it. As you can see here, a binary number is converted integer, same for the octal and the hexadecimal. So what happens if we provide non-numeric value to the int method? It will raise value error that it contains invalid literal. In this case, this is this. Second is float method, which converts the given value into the float object. Okay, we can pass int, boolean or string. So int will be represented as it is. For false, it will convert it to the 0.0, and for true it will be 1.0, and string will be represented as it is in float object, as we can see here. And same as int, it will throw value error if non-numeric character is found into the string other than dot. Okay, next method is boolean, which converts the given value into the boolean object. So for integer, 0 is converted into the false, and any other value, negative or positive, converted to the true. Same goes for float value also. 0.0, any number of 0 is converted to false, any negative or positive value of float is converted to the true. For string, empty string converted to the false, and non-empty strings are converted to the true value. As we can see, -1 is true, 0.00 is false, and non-empty string is true. Next is str method, which converts the given value to the string. So when we are printing any non-string value, Python uses str method to convert the given object into the string representation. So it will print the object as it is. So if we execute it for int, float or boolean value, it will convert the same value into the string. Next topic is declaring an integer in binary, octal or hexadecimal representation. So when we assign a binary using 0b, octal using 0o, and hexadecimal using 0x, Python internally converts the given object into equivalent integer object, and it is stored into the variable. So if we execute it, we can see that this binary number is converted into integer, same as for octal and hexadecimal are converted. Now in order to convert the given integer number into the equivalent binary, octal and hexadecimal string, we have bin, oct and hex method. So bin will convert given integer into binary, oct will convert given integer into octal, and hex will convert into the hexadecimal representation of given integer object into the string object. Okay, let's execute it. As we can see, it converts integer 45 into equivalent binary, octal and hexadecimal representation, and return type of variable is string. That brings us to end of video.